I'm about to build well over 100 trees in my Minecraft world. And I know what you're probably thinking. Why would anyone put themselves through something like this? Well, I wasn't going to, but then I tried it in creative and realized how cool it looked. How much it completely transformed my medieval city. I just had to do it. These trees are completely built out of yellow wool, yellow concrete, yellow stained glass panes, not a bed, diorite wall, diorite, and birch wood. We're gonna need a shulker box of birch wood, a shulker box of diorite, 2 shulker boxes of diorite walls, 2 shulker boxes of yellow stained glass panes, 3 shulker boxes of concrete, and 7 shulker boxes of yellow wool. That's only 5. This is 7. Oh, and I almost forgot. There is also shulker box of yellow terracotta. Perfect. You're probably wondering how I'm going to collect all these blocks. I have no idea. However, I do know that the most important one, the most abundant one we need, yellow wool, can be farmed relatively easily. So my plan is, of course, to build a sheep farm. These farms are pretty simple to make. I've made some before. And my plan is to have 16 sheep in here. So for now, they can all be yellow, but eventually we can convert them all into the different colors once we don't need 5 million yellow wool anymore. Now we've got to transport these sheep all the way from my old starter base to the new area, which is just behind this hill. However, this is still very annoying. With all the sheep in, I need to fill up all of these dispensers with shears. This should be slowly producing wool, especially once all the sheep grow up. If we check in here, yep, already got some wool going, and it's pouring in. Don't get me wrong, this machine is still going to be pretty slow. It's going to take it a long time to get 7 shulker boxes of wool. However, as long as we hang out in this area, before you know it, we'll have all the wool we need. And of course, don't worry, I'm going to build something around this by the end of the episode. It's going to look really cool. As this farm chips away, we have a 1/7 of what we need so far. Let's work on getting the rest of these materials in the meantime. I think an easy and relatively enjoyable one will be getting yellow terracotta, and I can see a nice big yellow streak of terracotta just over here, so that's perfect. First item checked off the list, but now let's go ahead and quickly AFK our yellow wool. I say quickly, I'm probably going to AFK for about a day and see how much we get in that time. Okay, let's check. We have 1 chest, 2 chests, 3 chests, and 4 chests, maybe even, and a little bit more in a 5th chest. I think that's enough to fill all 7 shulker boxes, which is perfect. If it took that long for the farm to gather all these blocks, imagine how long it's going to take me to place them all. Now, I know we just had a ton of fun gathering wool, but what would be better than spending the rest of my night gathering 3 shulker boxes of diorite? Hopefully I'm being sarcastic. I don't actually think it'll take that long. Mining diorite isn't too bad. Thankfully, we can instant mine it. It's kind of hard to find pockets of it, especially ones that are near our beacon, because I kind of just have to randomly guess where our beacon actually is. But for some reason, I have found like the jackpot over here, which is kind of nice. And I've just been plowing through this stuff, trying to get all 3 shulker boxes we need. And I think we just about have... Where's my shulker box? Why am I missing a shulker box? That is not good. Please tell me I just placed it up here somewhere. I reviewed the footage and realized I had dropped it somewhere and my inventory was too full to pick it up, so looks like we have to get 1 more shulker box. That's kind of annoying. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. That is all the diorite we need and a little left over too. I think I have to turn 1 or 2 of those shulker boxes into walls. I kind of forget. Yep, it's 2 of them. 2 of these diorite boxes need to be converted into literal diorite walls. I needed 2 shulker boxes of diorite walls. I don't know if anybody's ever used that many of that block in 1 single build, but I mean, here we are. I think next step, I want to figure out how to get this shulker box of birch wood. Now I've got 2 options. I mean, I can chop them by hand. I'd rather not do that, or I could use my tree farm. That seems like the obvious choice. However, I really don't have a good supply of bone meal. I mean, if we check the farm real quick, I'm pretty sure that there's literally no bone meal in here. Yeah, there's absolutely nothing. I'm feeling like the best way to get bone meal might be ripping up some of the bones from a soul sand valley, because every bone is 9 bone meal. That can't be too bad, can it? Mining these stupid things in third person is so annoying. Hopefully the clip looks kind of good. Ah, screw it. I'm not going to do that no more. Alright, nearly 4 stacks of bone blocks should be enough. That translates to what? 36 stacks of bone meal, which will probably be good enough for now. Or at least to get a single shulker of birch wood, right? That amount of bone meal ended up being just enough, I think, combined with what we already have in our storage in order to make the wood. The thing about this stuff is it's not the logs. For some reason, I decided to use the straight up 4-sided texture, which means we actually lose one in the process, but it's okay. There we go. Another shulker box checked off our list. I also gathered a couple stacks of calcite because I think we need a little tiny bit of it. Now for the 2 final items, concrete and glass. I saved these 2 for last for a very important reason. I don't want to get these by hand. And as I'm sure you know, there's a method of duping gravity blocks such as sand and concrete, both things that we're gonna need. So I think this is a relatively good opportunity to take advantage of that. If you're unfamiliar with these concrete, sand, gravel dupers use the end portal and basically push the sand into the end portal in a certain way that uses a glitch to duplicate it. It's pretty cool, but also I have no idea how to build it myself. Obviously, I'm using a tutorial. This tutorial in particular is by ENX04, so let's build this thing up. So what I'm going to do is put 2 of them as the yellow concrete and 2 of them as regular sand. And then I'm going to leave this for about an hour and hope my computer doesn't break. Because let me tell you, there is going to be a lot of items. All right, I ran the farm for about an hour, which means we definitely have a lot of materials in here. I'm worried there's too many materials and the world corrupts. It probably won't. And it seems like the overfill wasn't too crazy, but we do have a ton of yellow concrete. Yeah, look at all this. This is kind of cheaty, but it's in the vanilla game. I don't really care. And plus, I'd like to have a life outside of building trees and gathering resources in Minecraft, so I'm not complaining. Okay, here we go. I packed it all into boxes. This is actually insane how overpowered these farms are. Let's place down all of our concrete here and then smelt a shulker box of our sand into glass for the glass panes, of course. In order to keep the smelter running this whole time, I'm going to fly around and grab some coal real quick from the nearby mountain. I'm also kind of realizing I'm going to need a lot of yellow dye. Maybe I'm best off finding like a sunflower field. I don't really want to take one by my base though. Hold on a minute. There are quite a few yellow flowers up here. Maybe I'll just pick some of these. I'll grab all of our glass. I made way extra, but I want to have plenty on hand. Now let's take our glass, turn it into stained glass, and finally turn it into stained glass panes. There we go. That should be every single block collected. That took me almost a week. Now you're probably wondering how I even designed a forest like this. I mean, I certainly didn't design every single tree by hand. In fact, the only trees I actually designed were these 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, varying in size, varying in detail. They're relatively similar, but they have enough character that the forest won't feel too repetitive, I don't think. Then what I did is go to a creative copy of our survival world. I turned all 6 trees into schematics and put them in the stamp tool, which allows me to use this paintbrush tool to paint them into the world just like this. It's so cool. It then rotates them randomly and scatters them out to make it look like a real forest. It looks so cool. Let's get a feel for how long building a tree like this is going to take. Obviously, the Lightmatica schematic is going to help a lot. Using Lightmatica, we'll be able to go up layer by layer. I think this is the fastest possible way to translate this from the creative testing world into my survival world. Obviously, I'm still placing all the blocks by hand, but this is going to speed up the process so much. As we go up, the tree gets slightly more dense and there's more blocks to place, but it overall should be pretty fast. There we go. Tree number 1 is in. Looks good. Took about a minute to build. We'll continue this little area over here and see if that carries over for the rest of them. Our first batch of trees is done, and these look really cool, especially when you back up and look at them as one forest or walking inside of them. I mean, it's definitely very different from anything I've ever really seen done in Minecraft before, but I think that's why it's so cool. I think in between tree builds, I'll have to have different projects to work on, such as probably covering this wolf farm kind of soon. But for now, let's continue building up more of these trees, at least get them wrapped all the way around our inn here. I feel like as I've been going, this is getting slightly faster. I'm getting a little bit faster at placing all these blocks down. The biggest bottleneck is the size of my inventory. Thankfully, this isn't the kind of project where there's 100 different block types. I'm using like something like the city, for example. And having all the blocks already collected like this means I can sort of just be in a flow state where I'm just placing blocks, zoning out, or watching some sort of YouTube video in the process. Gonna feel that way once we're about 50 more trees in? Probably not. We are actually really starting to make a dent here. I mean, this is a lot of trees, and I built all of these within the last 24 hours. It hasn't been too bad. But before we work on anything else like the sheep farm, I at least want to get the forest all the way to our castle. That shouldn't take too long at all. Here it is. We've got this side of the river fully built up with trees. After we have all of the trees up, I'm going to go back through and add all the ground details, a bunch of bushes, a lot of foliage. But for now, this is pretty good. But I would like to take a little break from building trees to work on fixing the eyesore that is our sheep farm. I don't want to get done with this whole forest and then have this ugly thing sitting out in front. I don't really have a plan for this build at all. I'm really just going to try to wing it. And believe it or not, 7 shulker boxes of yellow wool barely makes a dent in these shears, I guess. That's pretty nice. I think the best way to start is going to be outlining it with mangrove logs. All right, now let's work out these walls. We're starting with something like this. And actually, I think the roof is gonna go something along these lines. Okay, here's what we got so far. This is definitely interesting. It's a pretty different style than the castle, to be fair, but also the color scheme is gonna make it match together pretty well. And I know we're not really to the detail phase yet, but I can't resist at least doing a little bit. Yeah, that adds a lot. Now let's test out the roof pattern. I'm just gonna start normal and then add the detail on top. I wanna have these kind of stained lines going down the thing like this. I think that's actually pretty cool. And then we'll break up this black stone as well with some of the regular blocks. Yeah, I think that'll be pretty cool once we copy it across. Okay, here we go. We've got more of the basic foundation for this build set up, and it's looking pretty good. It covers the wool farm very well, but we gotta work on making something else down here. We're basically gonna go for the same style, just turn it 90 degrees so it looks more like this. I think we've got the basic layout here. Let's add the details. Of course, I'm gonna throw in the door down here, and I kind of want to put up a sign, and we're gonna make it out of these black boxes, which is gonna take a while to get right. Hey, look at that. That's super cool. I want to add some like canisters or silos full of wool, and I think maybe they can go in front of it. Here you go. We got these 3 big silos here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill each of these full of cyan, and there's even going to be wool spilling out of them. Oh yeah, look at that. That is actually really cool. It really makes this thing very clear that it's a wool farm and not just some random building. And one last thing to finish this build off, I want to make sure the path runs all the way past it. So let's quickly build that up. I grinded out the first half of the forest, honestly probably the smaller part of the forest, but it's just such a cool environment. I mean, the trees on their own look a little strange, but in a forest like this, they really all come together in a really cool way and create something I've never really seen done in survival Minecraft before. But as you know, that's only half the forest. The second half is my favorite part, with all the paths winding through it and the pond in the heart of it. It's gonna look so cool, and it's gonna completely transform this view of the city, pretty much hiding this less desirable side of the castle as well as the back sides of all the houses. And it's pretty much gonna come all the way up to the wool building here. I'm feeling super motivated right now by how cool this is looking. I want to just grind it all out, see if I can finish this entire half in one single day. This is gonna be such a major grind, but I'm so excited to see how it turns out. We can now see that yellow wool of all things is my second most placed blocks, only behind grass blocks, and it might honestly overtake it before the end of this, which is actually crazy. And I'm kind of realizing now the ground details might take just as long as the trees do. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, looks like 3 trees to go. We are so close. I can't wait. It's time for the final tree. Looking back at the replay footage, it looks like I spent about 8 or 9 hours building these trees over the last couple days. There we go. All the trees are officially complete. And when I started this region, this is the picture I had in mind. This city and this castle surrounded by this dense golden forest with all these yellow fall leaves. Of course, we are nowhere close to done. The most important part of getting this forest to look good is adding all the ground details, all the foliage and plants and stuff like that. Obviously, we were gonna have to collect more materials for that. Hopefully, it won't be as bad as the trees. It won't be, don't worry. I've got this supply kit here of different items I'm going to be using for this. So let's figure out what I'm kind of trying to go for here. I'm going to start by putting some coarse dirt around the bases of trees. It's a really good way to kind of meld them into the terrain, I think, and is relatively simple to do. I want the ground to be extremely vegetated. That might involve some tall grass or even some moss. But I think moss is something that'll look pretty cool and is a good way to spread the grass as well. Okay, we've got the ground layer in here. Now let's figure out how I'm gonna make these bushes. I kind of have it in my head that I'm gonna have mangrove roots covered in leaves, sort of like this. I'm not positive though. And then I'd have like some lighter leaves like this color. Okay, yeah, that could actually definitely work. Let's add a few more of that type of thing into this area. Okay, I think it's gonna look something like this. This looks really cool actually. And then I want to have flowers. I'm gonna go mostly for the tall flowers and putting them in patches like this, trying to pay attention to where the light kind of shines through, because that's obviously where the flowers would grow in real life. And we're also gonna throw in some of these pink petals because these are super cool. And there you have it. This area is a perfect model for what we're gonna do with the rest of the area. Obviously we'll add a bunch of unique features throughout the whole place, but for the most part this is what the average vegetation looks like for this kind of forest. I decided, because it's my forest, so I can decide. I have this area mostly vegetated on the ground here. You can see all the bushes now, the tall grass and the flowers, just making it super dense and overall a lot more like a natural forest. And I want to continue that on the other half of the forest. However, I think a better approach for this side will be working on the unique details first, like fallen trees or little builds inside the forest. One thing I do want to do, I think, is add a couple of crop fields. I think they could look good over here, especially on this empty area next to the path. So let's do that quickly. I'm going to do a very classic thing for me, which is to make just some rough circles out of a stone type, making some ruined looking walls. And jumping ahead, here's how it turned out. Not bad. It's a great place for me to harvest carrots and kind of explains how the villagers get their food, I guess. Are you... Oh my gosh, no. Maybe what we'll do with this clearing instead is put a campfire in the middle with a few different benches surrounding it. There we go. Nice and simple. This looks good. Well, on the theme with the campfire, how about we set up a small tent up here as well? Whoever's camping up here is right on the edge of this cave. Hopefully they don't mind. Inside the tent we can place a few essentials like a place to sleep, a chest you can totally open, and a crafting bench. There we go. Everything you need to survive in the wilderness. Right next to a city and a castle. I mean, there's an obvious problem that mobs can literally spawn on all of these trees, which is not normally how Minecraft trees work. So hopefully we don't get dive bombed by some sort of creeper, but I think we'll be okay. Hopefully. One last detail I keep forgetting to add is, of course, this bridge stretching across this river next to our castle. There we go. Something nice and simple for the time being. And with this bridge complete, I think that means we've done it. I spent a lot of time off camera vegetating every single last bit of this forest, and it has completely transformed the look and atmosphere and just overall feel of this area. It's so cool. It feels weird to say I'm done because I've been working so hard on this for months and months and months, and of course there's always more stuff we can do. The village is still totally undetailed, but that'll just be an off-camera thing from time to time. But what I really have been waiting to do is to turn on shaders, and wow. Explore this forest with shaders on. My favorite shot of this area is definitely looking from the pond. The pond is framed out so well by the trees and all these bushes. This is probably the coolest single shot in all the area. It's so interesting how this can feel like an entirely new area with all these trees added. And you might remember at the very start of the series, I talked about the color theory I had in mind for this area. I intentionally had the cool greens and blues at the surface level and then the browns and grays for the buildings. so they'd really stick out against the bright yellow and the bright warm red of the castle. And it creates a really cool and unique contrast I've never really seen in other Minecraft builds. But hey, thanks for all the support in 2024. It really means the world. And if you made it this far, I'm sure you're already subscribed. I'm so excited to step up my video production even more in 2025. I'll see you there.